Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good night, or wherever you might be in the world, or whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm actually in my uh, proper settings for this. I can't think of the words. But I'm not in my car. I'm at my game setup right now. This is where I usually will stream my Twitch and stuff, so I'm actually using that software. Um, but today we are going to talk about fibromyalgia because, as I mentioned in my last video, that is what I was diagnosed with. And for a lot of you, if you found me, that might be what you have right now, or what doctors are leading to diagnose you with. If that is the case, my heart goes out to you because on one side of the things, it might be super relieving to hear that you have it, but on the other side of things, now you have to live with this disorder or disease. I want to call it disorder because it's not really a disease. So basically in this video we're going to cover a couple things. It's just going to be an overview of fibromyalgia and what it is, what it means for me, and then hopefully in the comment section you guys can type in what it means for you, some of your symptoms, if your symptoms are a little different than mine. I'm going to go over the symptoms. I have a list here of my symptoms, and then I have a list here of symptoms, like overview symptoms that common symptoms of fibromyalgia, and then what those means for me and how I experience them. Because the biggest thing with fibromyalgia and the tough thing is number one, you're only usually diagnosed with fibromyalgia if doctors cannot find any other reason for your pain or fatigue or bodily issues. So already that makes it very complicated, and it usually takes about 2 to 3 months, if not more, to get diagnosed with this because you have to take a whole bunch of tests to make sure you don't have a plethora of other things. So this disorder is very confusing and very unknown. In fact, I would say people who live through it throughout their lives know a lot more about it than doctors who don't have it and only have researched about it, because the pain and the things that we experience with fibromyalgia are so unexplainable, is the best way to say it. They're just unexplainable. And those of you that come here that with fibromyalgia, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So let me just go over the overview of fibromyalgia. And sorry if I look from screen to screen. I have two here. My camera's over here, and then my notes are over here, kind of like what I want to discuss with this video. So what is fibromyalgia? I'm just going to read off the Mayo Clinic's definition of it, and then I'll tell you my definition of it. So for Mayo Clinic, they say fibromyalgia is a disorder characterized by widespread muscular skeletal pain. So muscles, your muscle pain, accompanied by fatigue, sleep memory, sleep, memory, and mood issues. It's believed that fibromyalgia amplifies painful sensations by affecting the way your brain and spinal cord process painful and non-painful signals. So basically, it's believed that something in your brain and spinal cord, the nervous system, or whatever it may be, it's all messed up. And the way your body registers pain and non-pain signals is just completely out of balance. And because of this, a plethora of different symptoms um, are in effect. Um, and it actually says on the Mayo Clinic's website that symptoms often begin after an event such as physical trauma, surgery, infection, or significant psychological stress. Psychological stress, that's a big one because anyone that I've talked to with fibromyalgia usually have gone through some type of PTSD. And if you guys remember in my first video, or if you haven't watched it, it's the one where I'm in the car. Not very professional, but you know, it is what it is. I actually, that's how mine started. It is a physical traumatic, um, you know, stress, an event that occurred. Um, so, what is fibro to me? Fibro is literally a pain in my ass. Excuse my French, but that's what it is. Um, and I'm gonna go through discuss the symptoms here in a little bit. And again, kind of recap on last video. Basically, what happened is back in 2019, I was working for a car dealership, and I just wasn't taking care of myself during it. I was very overheated. I smoked something I shouldn't have and hadn't ever before, and a lot of, I was on two very intense caffeinated drinks, which sent me to the hospital and then sent me into a downhill spiral of health anxiety and anxiety type symptoms to eventually where I think fibromyalgia kind of formed during that. I think that traumatic stress, because of that fight or flight mode, my brain was just like, oh my God, what's happening? I'm going to die. I'm going to die. That psychological stress, I think, messed up something in my brain. And ever since, I haven't been the same. Now, obviously, it's been, see, 2019 was 2 years ago. That's insane to even think about. So we're coming up on my 2 year anniversary of it. Um, and obviously, as you can see, I'm still alive. So my fears of motor neuron diseases or heart attacks or cancer, all of that was not true. And I believe it or not, for a lot of you, that's the same way. So, anxiety is a major symptom of fibromyalgia. And again, we'll get back into it later. But people that go through anxiety on a day-to-day basis, it's different for those who have fibromyalgia. It's not the same. It's heightened with people with fibromyalgia. And again, I'll get into that here in a bit. So basically, that's what happened for me, and I won't go into that anymore because I kind of already explained that in my first video. But let's get into the symptoms. I have a list of symptoms here, and then I'll kind of describe go over the symptoms that I kind of go through, or like, how I feel it. And again, fibromyalgia is different for everybody. Everyone goes through a bunch of different symptoms. If I go through this list of symptoms and I say something that you're going through, or I miss something that you're going through, please comment in the section below, so that we all can kind of see where we're all at with that, because I know everyone goes through a different type. Fibromyalgia is different from person to person. So the first one here is pain. That one's kind of obvious. It can be constant dull body pain to severe piercing pain. Mine kind of goes back and forth. I'm always in some type of pain, and it's usually within my chest, the back of my shoulders, especially in my scapulas, and in my lower back, in my legs, and well, in every single muscle you can think of. There's just a constant dull aching pain. And with fibromyalgia, usually there's a bunch of like points in your body that are like trigger points. And that's actually one thing they look for when you're at the doctor's office, is they'll like touch these trigger points. And if you have, believe there's like 16 or 18, and if you have like 10 or 12 of them, they're like, fibromyalgia is now in the picture. Usually, if they won't diagnose it until you've been going through it for like 3 or more months with just unexplained pain. Sleep problems is the next one. This is huge and obviously it's because of the pain and the other symptoms that we're going through. Usually it'll be hard to, number one, well, for me, it's not hard for me to fall asleep. I'll fall asleep really quickly, but to stay asleep is the issue. I'll wake up, at night, from a plethora of different things, whether just a lot of pain or I'll wake up in panic. But usually it's just hard to stay asleep. But usually me specifically, I don't really have an issue falling asleep. It's usually just staying asleep and getting good sleep. I wake up and I don't feel rested. Okay. Cognitive difficulty. So this one actually is a major one for me. You can already hear it when I talk. I slip up on words very easily because my mouth and my brain and my body just aren't fully connected. And that's kind of the best way to describe it. Like, you just find yourself slipping up on your words a lot more. You can't remember things as easily. Like, that one's a huge one, memory issues. It's actually called fibro fog. So it's hard to like pay attention very easily. You'll find yourself your brain like slipping into thoughts easier, and you're not really like aware all the time. I notice this especially when I'm driving. When I'm driving, I'll just kind of forget that I'm driving, and then I'll like snap out of it, and I'll be like in a panic for a second, and my heart will go like will race for a little bit, and then I like come back to reality. Um, I know this one's different for everyone, so please comment down below how fibro fog kind of affects you guys. But basically, in focusing situations or paying attention, it just affects cognitively, and that's basically brain. Fatigue. This one is major. Anyone with that goes through fibromyalgia will have some type of fatigue. Um, and this means basically people will feel tired, like extremely tired, like not your average after a long day of physical work tired. I mean, like you'll feel that starting when you wake up to the time you go to bed, and it only gets worse. You'll feel tired, you'll feel weak, you'll sleep for longer periods, and you'll wake up with pain. Um, for me, from the moment I wake up, I am exhausted. It feels like I didn't sleep the night before. I felt like I was staying partying all night. Um, I'll feel extremely weak some days. Some days are, of course, are better than other, and it's getting. I can fibromyalgia. It comes and it goes. And what I mean by that is what I like to call fibro attacks. So there's periods of times during the week, or maybe sometimes it goes for a whole week or 2 weeks, where my fibromyalgia is very active. And I'll kind of go through this in another video that I'm going to do on how I deal with my fibromyalgia and a little tips and tricks. But right now I'm just kind of introducing fibromyalgia. Um, Anyways, sorry, I got distracted there. But yeah, so you'll feel very fatigued. Your muscles, like, even to the point where, like, it feels like a chore just to lift your arms up, just to get out of bed, just to walk. Your body's in a lot of pain. For me, my legs are one of the biggest areas where I feel a lot of fatigue and a lot of pain. It feels like I'm carrying a semi truck on my back. That's the best way I can explain it. It feels like you're carrying like triple the amount of weight that you actually are. Um, okay, insomnia or waking up feeling just as tired. So this one I kind of already went through. This for me especially. I kind of go through insomnia in a way, but basically just waking up feeling like you're just didn't sleep at all the night before, or you kind of wake up or you kind of have a hard time staying asleep when you're going to bed. Uh, like for me, it's so bad to the point where if I even just like lay on my bed during the day, I'll instantly fall asleep because I'm so tired. All right, this next one: abdominal pain, bloating, nausea, constipation, basically irritable bowel syndrome. This one is a big one with a lot of people. I go through abdominal pain, but I don't really have like I'll kind of go through periods of irritable bowel syndrome. Like it's not just constant for me. I know for a lot of people this one's like a really bad one. This one doesn't affect me as much, but I definitely if one thing that does is the bloating. If I eat the wrong thing, because again I'll go over this with my tips and tricks for fibromyalgia, but I strongly believe that diet has everything to do about this. Like if you eat one wrong thing with fibromyalgia, you will be bloated. You will be it will just tear your stomach apart because your body already isn't processing things correctly. So that means your stomach especially is not going to. So again, I'll go over in that video, and I'll even make another video on my diet and everything I do, and then I'll go over another one like that'll include like my workouts, because that's a huge one. People don't know how to work out with fibromyalgia, so I'll have another whole video on that, on my tips and tricks. But again, I'm getting carried away. I'm trying to put too much in one video, so I'm gonna go back to this. But I know irritable bowel syndrome is a big one for a lot of people, and just a quick thing about that. I believe diet has everything to do about that. Obviously, at the end of the day, fibromyalgia is fibromyalgia. It's always going to be around, but I strongly believe, and doctors do too, that you can reduce the symptoms and make your life a lot better. But that one's a big one. This next one is a big one for me: tension or migraine headaches. I can't remember the last time I didn't have some type of headache. I have some type of tension in my head 24/7. Sometimes it's light, but I always feel it there. And the best way I can describe it, at least when it's not like super painful, is it feels like a tingling or like it feels like a sensation in the very front of my head, like the nerves are just active. And like the gears just aren't all running correctly. Like that's the best way I can describe it. But I can always feel like little bits of tension in the front of my head, and then when it's really bad, it's like a strong band. Like the muscles are like just, and that's what I honestly think it is. I think it's just the muscles in my head um, are just fatigued. Like I mean, it's fibromyalgia. Every single muscle's gonna hurt, so that tension goes to your head. A lot of people I know, when I was doing research on this earlier, they would have these symptoms and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm dying from. I have a brain tumor. I have something in my head." Well, you don't. It's you have muscles in your head, believe it or not. It's just the tension in your muscles, and so sometimes it gets really bad to a point where like everything cognitively, like your vision's affected, and I'll get into that here soon in a second. Um, but it's really bad. It can get really bad. But yeah, so for me, and I know for a lot of other people, my headache actually never goes away, or sorry, the tension in my head never goes away. It just kind of goes into remission. So it's just there's times where I don't notice it, but I can always, if I really think about it, I can always feel a sensation in the front of my head. This next one also is a very big one for me. Jaw and facial tenderness. So actually with fibromyalgia, there's a lot of different disorders that kind of coincide with it. In my earlier video, um, I talked about muscle twitches and BFS, which is benign fasciculation syndrome, the one where I thought I had motor neuron disease. That actually often goes with fibromyalgia. So I haven't technically been diagnosed with that, but doctors couldn't find a reason for my muscle twitches, so they just kind of said it's probably BFS, which is benign fasciculation syndrome, which basically means your muscles just twitch for absolutely no reason. My calves have not stopped twitching for 2 years. I'm not even kidding. They've never stopped. And I'll get muscle spasms in all of my body. There will always be a muscle that's twitching in my body, whether it's in my thumbs, or my calves, or my triceps, or my back, or my eyelids. My eyelids is a big one. Um, but yeah, and anyways, back to the jaw and facial tenderness. So this thing called TMJ, that's another disorder that kind of goes hand in hand with fibromyalgia, and it's actually something that I have. So my jaw is extremely stiff and painful. Like if I touch the two jaw points right here, the TMJ, it's extremely painful. My jaw clicks a lot. After I eat, my whole face will be so tense that it's just agonizing. I mean, again, this goes into remission too. There's times where it's not as bad, but a lot of you will actually resonate with this because people with fibromyalgia, they don't often talk about this, but if I talk for long periods of times, like already I can feel my jaw getting stiff and tightening. If I eat like really hard foods, like steak is a big one, it's hard to chew it because it just hurts so bad. And there's times where my jaw will actually lock up because it's so intense and so painful, um, and extremely like stiff and tight. So that's kind of what I go through with my TMJ. So comment down below if that's something that you go through, because I know that's one that not a lot of people do. And I think honestly that kind of coincides with the headaches, because if your jaw and your jaw facial muscles are extremely stiff, that will cause headaches. Okay, this next one, sensitivity to one or more of the following: odors, so like smells, noise, bright lights, medications, and certain foods, and cold. So I kind of went over the certain foods already. I believe that goes hand in hand with the irritable bowel syndrome, but your diet has to be on point with fibromyalgia. It just has to. If you want to live your best life with fibromyalgia, you have to stay on a diet. That means you can't eat out, at least, and if you do, I mean, you can have like a cheat meal here and there, but just expect the next day you're not going to feel good. That's just the bottom line. For me, the best way I can describe that is if I eat something I'm not supposed to, I literally feel like I had 10 shots the night before. It feels like a hangover. That's what it feels like. And every single symptom is just in full effect. Like I will send myself into a fibro attack, that I call it, if I don't eat right. And again, I'll probably go over a whole nother video about that. but basically just really quickly, for me, certain foods I can't eat is pretty much any processed food, any super really fatty food, so like really fatty meats, or oily foods, um, anything related with dairy. Dairy, so like milk, ice cream, and then the biggest one of them all, and this is for everyone, the fibromyalgia, and you guys aren't gonna like to hear this, but sugar. Processed sugar, simple sugars, big no no. Big no no. Sugar is like your worst enemy besides for your brain. It's your worst enemy with fibromyalgia. And again, I'll have a whole other video on that. But again, so now to the sensitivity of odors, or smells. Basically, this one I don't have a huge issue with, but basically, from what I heard with other people, you're just number one, for some reason like your senses and smells is just better, and it just affects you and kind of I don't know how to explain this, but because I don't really go through it, it's kind of hard to explain something you don't go through. But basically, it just I guess the best way to describe it is it just annoys you and it affects you a lot more, and you smell it easier, and it's just the like if you smell something bad, it's just worse, I guess. Noise. This is a big one. This is one that I do go through. Loud noises will just send me through a loop. Like it's just painful to my brain and annoying. Like if you go through this, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just it's just worse for you. Like your senses and all your senses with fibromyalgia are just like super more intense. Is the best way I can explain it. Bright lights. The best way I can describe this is if have you ever like woken up and stepped outside right after and the sun's just glaring at you? People with fibromyalgia experience that with any kind of light. And sometimes it's worse than others. This is a symptom that I do experience, but not as often as other people. For me, if I step outside after being inside for a long time, the sun is just blinding. And I mean like painfully blinding. Like like my eyes are squinted. Like obviously I can't look up. But like even just looking around, it's just painful. And not physically, but mentally painful. And people that go through this will know exactly what I mean. Medications. So certain medications that you take. I actually don't take medications. I do everything naturally. And again, a whole other video on all this. But I don't take any medications for fibromyalgia. I strongly believe in doing things naturally. Everyone is different. I know for a lot of these symptoms, medications really will help. But going through 2 years of health anxiety thinking I was dying, I kind of used to going through pain all the time, so I don't take any medications. But there are a lot of medications that will come that are really bad with fibromyalgia, that uh, just worsen symptoms and give you really weird side effects, and that's exactly why I don't take them. And then cold, sensitivity to cold. I don't really go through this because I live in Arizona, but I do know when it is cold season, I have these internal like shakes. My whole body kind of like tremors a lot, and I get really numb, and I'm actually about to go through another symptom on that. But yeah, that's the best way I can explain that. Feeling anxious or depressed. So this one is a big one, and I think this comes with just being fatigued all the time, being in pain all the time, being tired all the time. You just don't have motivation for anything. All you want to do is just lay down, and that's very toxic and um, very hard to live with. People with going through fibromyalgia know exactly what I'm talking about. You're always feeling anxious about something, whether it's your pain or your life, because you can't get up and go to work and feel motivated for it. It's hard to feel motivation for work. I felt this especially when I was working for Amazon as a delivery driver. I was in so much pain all the time, and it took everything in me to go to work, because it's a very physically demanding job, and I feel bad for those of you that do work a very physically demanding job, because with fibromyalgia, your body gets tired so quickly, like triple the times quicker than anyone else, who doesn't go through it, or obviously other people that go through other things. It's different for everyone, but yeah, so I think the anxiety comes obviously, you know, with number one, fibromyalgia is very unknown. So these symptoms that you're experiencing, especially if you're undiagnosed, anxiety is going to be through the roof. That's exactly what I went through. I thought I had a neuron disease. I know that's a common one. Cancer is another common one that you have anxiety about. You know, you're Googling, you know, I talked about this in my last video, you doctor Googling. You know, I'll actually have a whole separate video on this about how to stay away from Dr. Google because that will make everything worse. Um, but yeah, so health anxiety is a big one. Just feeling anxious about every day. Being worried about how you're gonna make income. With fibromyalgia, a lot of people are in and out of jobs. I'm actually one of those people. It's really just hard to find something that you're motivated with and enjoy. Because I believe with fibromyalgia, you have to switch things in your life to make it livable. You have to do all the work yourself. Um, you know, and it's hard because there's a lot of jobs out there. It, I don't sitting down or standing up for a long period of time is just horrible with fibromyalgia, and I'll actually get to that in a second. Actually, I'll get into that now. So going back to the pain, with my pain, my muscles also get extremely stiff, especially if I sit down for more than 15 minutes or even 10 minutes. My body will stiffen up so bad. Like when I stand up, it's just like I have to literally just move around. It's just I don't know how to explain it. Just my body feels like it's stuck, and it's just the muscles are constantly stiff and tight. And it's painful when I sit down for long periods of time. It's painful when I stand up for periods of time, like even just 5 to 10 minutes. Like I constantly have to be moving. And I know that's the same thing for a lot of people with fibromyalgia. You constantly have to be moving, and on the go. And then just to breeze through these last ones, because I'm approaching 30 minutes on this video. Numbness or tingling in the face, arms, hands, legs, or feet. I feel this a lot, and this kind of coincides with my muscle twitches. There will be times, and this usually comes with the anxiousness part too. But my body, I'll have tingling in my hands or numbness in my hands and in my feet especially, and then sometimes in my face. And my arms, basically, it'll just feel like a weird, like internal tingliness. And there'll be times where I actually my hands will actually just go numb. And I notice this a lot with fibromyalgia. You're just like if you ever just like slept on your arm wrong and your whole arm feels numb, it kind of feels like that, just like in parts, like both parts of your body. It's a really weird, um, really hard to explain. This next one is also the same as like very common with me too. Increase in urinary urgency. That's basically having to pee a lot. Like if you drink a little bit of water, like you'll just feel it in your bladder. You have to pee. You're basically like the best way to describe it is that urgency to pee. You just feel it more often, and it's super annoying. Let me tell you, super annoying. And then reduced tolerance for exercise and muscle pain after exercise. This one is major because I exercise for a living basically. It's what I love to do. And I'm going to be making a whole nother video on this, so I'm not going to go into it too much right now, but be on the lookout for that. Basically, this one's also another one that's very important for those of you that are worried about motor neuron diseases, because it's something that I had to really mentally get over. And basically, the best way to describe it is it feels like your muscles don't work anymore. So when you're in the gym, it literally will feel like, and you'll be like, those of you that go through it, you'll know what I'm talking about. A certain muscle feels like it just doesn't activate anymore, or just doesn't work. It has no strength, it has no power in it. Um, it just literally feels like the muscle just isn't working. And I'm doing a video, and I'm gonna have tips and tricks on how I overcame this, how I reactivated those muscles, how I mentally overcame it. Because this one, for those of you that need to exercise or love to exercise, and to be honest, anyone that goes through fibromyalgia, you need to be active, you need to exercise. I promise you, it's one of the saving graces with it. But again, that does come with the muscle pain after exercise. And this is the last one I'm going to go over. Basically, the best way to describe it is all the pain that you already go through on a daily basis after a workout, um, quadruple that. It feels like we get hit by a vehicle. Like it literally feels like we just got hit by a semi truck. Like the muscle pain that we go through on a daily basis, it's just worse after exercise. And usually it won't hit till like a day or two after. It's usually like delayed. And all your muscles hurt. They feel extremely stiff. It's just extremely painful. And again, I'll have a whole nother video on that as well. To be honest, I can make a video about all these symptoms, and already I'm at 30 minutes, so I gotta end this now. But I appreciate you all for being here throughout this video. I hope this gave you an awareness of what fibromyalgia is. If you have it and you heard one of your symptoms, or you have one that I didn't mention, please comment down below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you want to stay with me and help me grow the awareness for fibromyalgia, because that's mainly what this channel is going to be about. I'll have a plethora of things on it because I do game as well. I do a lot of different things. But if you go through fibromyalgia, my heart is with you. I am here for you. Let's be here for each other. You guys are loved. You are cared about. We're going to get through this together. And just know that, fibromyalgia is not going to kill you. Okay? It's just an obstacle in your life that you have to get over, just like everything else in life. If you were scared about having motor neuron diseases or cancer or things like that, the scary stuff, fibromyalgia is scary, but just know it's not going to kill you. And just if you watch my last video and you have a lot of health anxiety, which I'll be making another video just on health anxiety, be relieved. And if you have a lot of these symptoms, use this as reassurance. Again, go to the doctor for reassurance, because I am no doctor. I just am someone going through fibromyalgia and went through the health anxiety phase. Go to a doctor, try and find a real diagnosis, but just know if you go through a lot of these symptoms, it's very rare that you have what you're scared about, because you go on Google and you type in your symptoms and you're like, oh my god, I have cancer, oh my god, I have ALS, I have MS, whatever it might be. It's very rare for you to have something like that. So go to the doctor, seek medical reassurance if you have to, and again, I'll be having a whole nother video on the whole anxiety train. But appreciate you all for staying here this long. Be on the lookout for the next video. Based on the comments down below, I'll probably decide which video I want to do it on. But hopefully it'll be out either the end of this week or next week. I'm going to try to at least get 2 or 3 uploads a week, if not at least 1. But hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. It's your boy Nate Reed. I'm out. Peace.